Hello, friends and colleagues, and welcome to the Tourism Skill Shop, hosted by State of Washington Tourism, SWT. My name is Matthew Ozuna, and I am the Destination Development Manager at SWT. I will introduce today's webinar on social inclusion. Please utilize the chat function in Zoom to say hello, and let us know where you are zooming in from today. Feel free to share your questions and comments in the chat box at any time during the webinar. You can also utilize the Q&A function near the end of the webinar. That's when we'll get to most of our questions today. Beth Salgado will also be joining us today. She is the marketing coordinator at SWT. Beth will monitor the chat and help address questions from the audience near the end of the webinar. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about this webinar series. It's a monthly series. The Tourism Skill Shop is one of many industry educational programs from State of Washington Tourism. This webinar series will engage with colleagues across the tourism sector and broaden their industry knowledge, skills, and network. Each webinar will highlight a specific issue or skill for tourism professionals to ponder and discuss with industry experts. State of Washington Tourism will host live webinars of the Tourism Skill Shop on the third or fourth Thursday of every month from 10 to 11 a.m. These webinars are free and open to all tourism stakeholders. The webinars will also be recorded and shared with registrants as well as other users on the SWT YouTube channel. For Tourism Skill Shop and other industry updates, visit the SWT industry website, sign up for the industry update newsletter, and follow SWT on LinkedIn. Tourism stakeholders may also join the SWT Facebook group for further discussion on topics related to the Tourism Skill Shop and other industry news, issues, and events. Now let's dive into today's webinar. Social inclusion is a framework developed by Destinations International that contextualizes societal issues, things like homelessness, workforce retention and recruitment, crime and safety, within the tourism sector. This framework can unlock untapped potential, drive innovation and productivity, and create a more welcoming visitor experience for people of all backgrounds and abilities. Webinar attendees will learn how to foster inclusion, empathy, and belonging in their destination communities. Sophia Hyder Hock, Chief Diversity Officer at Destinations International, will discuss how a holistic approach to social inclusion is the foundation for understanding systemic barriers to progress, building alliances, and driving sustainable economic growth. Rose Noble, CEO of Visit Spokane, will elaborate on social inclusion efforts in her destination community at the end or near the end of the webinar. This webinar will also preview the upcoming Social Inclusion Summit in Spokane in October 28th through 30th. And I'll be there, so I hope to see you as well. Now, before we dive in, I'll tell you a little bit more about Sophia and Rose. Sophia has spent 20 plus years involved with strategy, training and facilitation, as well as coaching services regarding diversity and social inclusion, gender empowerment, community engagement and outreach, emotional intelligence, and cultural awareness for clients in the international development and travel industries. She integrates human-centered design thinking and mindfulness practices into her work as a holistic way to develop sustainable outcomes that align with business performance and the enabling environment. Sophia, thank you for joining us today, all the way from North Carolina. Rose, now I'll turn to Rose. Rose took over the executive duties at Visit Spokane in November of 2023. After serving as president and CEO of Galena Country Tourism in Galena, Illinois. She is a graduate of Clark University with a degree in communications and PR. Rose has over 20 years of experience in marketing and graphic design and a strong understanding of branding and communications, including social media and emerging technologies. Rose became a certified destination management executive, CDME, through Destinations International's acclaimed professional development program and underwent equity, diversity, and inclusion via Destinations International in 2021. Rose, thank you for being here today with us, and I hope you're settling in just fine in Spokane. I hope you like this uh, change of scenery up in the Northwest. Okay, so Sophia, we'll start with you. Rose, you can go ahead and mute yourself and turn off your camera. We'll come to you a little later in the webinar. But Sophia, you're up first. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Destinations International and member benefits that you folks provide?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for having me today. I have a little screen to share. All right. So for those that are not familiar with Destinations International, we are an association for destination organizations. We have over 740 destination organizations in our membership and over 9,000 professionals, individual professionals as a part of those destination organizations. These numbers keep climbing every day. And so we always say that this specific slide can be outdated at really any time. But currently, as we know it, we have 30 countries and territories, and so far, 27 new destinations in 2024. So truly growing every day. With that, we have a variety of partners that we use to help our members thrive with the type of issues they may be dealing with. So you'll see a variety of here from an inclusion lens. We have Travelability. We work with Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. We work with Tourism Cares as some examples. We thrive on 4 pillars. Community is really centric. So this being a part of one of our main pillars. We have an online community. We have committees, our events. Advocacy and research is another really critical pillar to ensure that we're providing our members with research to help them not only thrive, but to be able to provide their constituents with the value and to lobby for the importance of the travel industry. We have destination tools that I'll highlight a few in just a second, and as well as professional development opportunities, CDME being one, as well as a variety of webinars and other educational resources. So delving a little deeper into our professional development opportunities, our summits are very disciplined, focused. Matthew spoke to one of them that's coming up in Spokane, which is a social inclusion summit. We also have our BizOps summit, and then we have a variety of different industry update webinars. And we have our certificates that you see at the bottom right now, CDME, PDM, ICC, and we will also have an upcoming one for inclusion, foundational principles of inclusion in Q4. We base all of our content every year on strategic initiatives. This year, we have our top 7 that you will see here. So any content, anything we produce is always pertains to either one or more of these 7 priorities. They get refreshed every year. I alluded to tools. Here are a variety of tools that we have to help our destination organizations measure performance, measure their inclusion efforts. I can speak to the social impact assessment tool as one example. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because we're going to be speaking to social inclusion in just a minute.
Well, yeah, maybe you should just keep that up, Sophia. I mean, my question, I kind of touched on it a little earlier, but can you kind of elaborate more on unpack social inclusion from Destinations International and why it's so important today to implement not only in destination organizations, but to try to get that throughout your destination community?
Absolutely. I'd like to go back a little bit in time to provide a little bit of a timeline as to how we got to where we got to today with respect to social inclusion. This work that DI has been doing in the inclusion space really started in 2018. And so we have been building upon our inclusion work to first back in 2018 to understand challenges and barriers to what that looked like in the industry, specifically with destination organizations. Internally, we had developed a task force, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force. The task force became a committee, and that committee then defined what equity, diversity, and inclusion meant. And the first product from that committee was to have to gather research and data to really be able to have an understanding of the challenges, identified challenges as well as gaps. So that led to in 2022, I was hired in February 2022. From that point onward, what I was doing was really just listening to our members as to, what curiosities you have, what challenges do you face, what does inclusion mean to you? And by way of talking to our members and listening to our members, there are two things that came up. One was, what happened if my destination isn't diverse enough? And the second was, how do I get started? Because it just seems so overwhelming. So what we aimed to do 2022 and 2023 was to be able to define what inclusion means, because we recognize that people have different definitions of what diversity means, what equity means, and what inclusion means. So on our website right now, we have what our working definition of inclusion means, free and open for everyone to use. And you'll see that we include body size, we include hair texture, those things that, in addition to race, ethnicity, gender, things that we all talk about, those little nuances are really important because they're part of someone's identity. And we're not just one, a monolith. So that part was really important to us. The second thing we did was to be able to speak to how to get started. And that provided a basis to speak to looking at data, taking the assessment tool, our social impact assessment tool, to then one, create awareness about what is currently going on in the destination, and then to be able to have discussions on what to do next.
Great. Well, and maybe that's my prompt for my next question.
Mm-hmm.
How can destination organizations and industry partners implement social inclusion efforts in their communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all the viewers here have had time to just look at the different topics that are on our framework. We shifted from what we were calling equity, diversity, and inclusion to social inclusion this year in February, by way of helping our members connect the dots between the topics that you see here that are really, really important for our destination organizations. And to be able to then think about how inclusion is woven through these topics. And by way of understanding how inclusion is woven in, what we're saying is that you'll get greater community trust and vitality, as well as vibrant economic growth. And so what we have also on our website are kind of the top five ways on how to get started. So it's essentially looking at this framework, identifying maybe the top 1 to 3 topics that are really important for your destination, and then delving deeper to think about how underrepresented populations in your community are engaged. Start there. What are you doing? Who could you involve in your community? And being able to start there really then helps create the beginning of a roadmap to greater inclusion in the community, as well as for visitors.
So you said roadmap. I mean, do some destination organizations, some communities have specific plans for this, strategic plans to, after they've done all the research, conducted an assessment, and now are implementing some of these things? Who's doing a good job of it? What few examples can you point to for the audience up here in the Northwest to kind of look to as a bright shining star?
There are so many examples. What we're doing right now is we're collecting these topic aligned case studies to be able to share with our audience. So I can speak to a few examples. I would say from, let's say, a supplier diversity angle. I think San Diego is doing a really great job of implementing this entrepreneurial program they have, a tourism aligned entrepreneurial program. And it's a really great way to generate excitement and awareness of what San Diego is doing as a destination organization. But it's a really neat way to highlight entrepreneurs and the tourism industry. So their accelerator is a really great example. I can speak to so many things here. Let's see. Accessibility.
Yes.
Is another really critical one. I'm thinking about, the West Coast. I would say Greater Palm Springs is doing a really great job of thinking about accessibility and thinking about the different types of accessibility, sensory friendly. Autism is a lens that they're taking a look at and really focusing in on. As well as Mesa, Arizona has always been really the leader with respect to accessibility. Oh goodness.
Well, I'm thinking of one too, just community engagement, a destination out in Virginia, Charlottesville.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you done some work with Courtney out there or have highlighted her work?
Yes, absolutely. So Courtney is with the Charlottesville Albemarle CVB, and we had piloted a program called Tourism for All to help engage business members as well as community members to understand how to create a more welcoming destination. So we launched this little pilot program, a pledge. Before signing any type of pledge, we put them through 4 different pillars of program to create more awareness of how to improve upon inclusion efforts internally, to be able to establish partnerships, community partnerships, and to be able to create a welcoming experience for visitors within the community, but also outside of the community. What was really, really neat about that pilot program, and we're actually working on duplication of that for our members, was that we, in partnership with TripAdvisor, we created a welcoming index. So we're able to measure um, what sentiments were of Charlottesville prior to engaging in this type of program, and then after engagement with this program, and the uptick of responses on the TripAdvisor site went up from a
Oh,
welcoming.
wow. Oh, that's amazing. That's yeah, super specific, um, an easy to understand metric to gauge
Right.
success. I mean, that's probably another thing that the folks that I talk to, like, how do you gauge success? What does that look like? How long does it take? These are some of the questions that will probably say for Rose, but in your experience, are there short, quick, easy wins here, or is there also a long game to this work?
There's a little bit of both, and I'd say that the first thing is to have that long-term perspective, to really find how you relate to this work, and to think about really the future of your family members that you have, the people that you care about. What kind of welcoming environment do you want to experience, and what does the future of this look like? So really putting that into context. The second piece is also looking at the short term. What can you do? And I would say a few things as an example from an accessibility lens. So people may not know how to get started, but a simple way on how to get started is to be able to look at your website to see if you have any specific information about how either people in wheelchairs or people that are autistic who are coming to your destination, how they can experience your destination, but also thinking about the traveler's journey to their destination. So being able to provide information on how to get from the airport to the hotel, what transportation options exist for wheelchair users, as an example. Being able to highlight accessible trails, being able to describe curb cuts in sidewalks, so things that already exist in the enabling environment, placing that information in advance for someone looking for that is a really quick win because travelers with disabilities plan their trips much way in advance than others do. So that's an example of a short-term solution.
Excellent. Now, you've mentioned planning programs. That all sounds like it takes time and resources. But you just mentioned, just looking at a website and kind of taking a critical look at a website and going over that and coming up with recommendations, solutions, improvements. So low cost, uh, doesn't require much of a time commitment. But in case resources are an issue and capacity, staffing, where else can these folks look? I mean, I assume you have some partners that kind of help with consulting and strategic planning in this arena. I should also say too, folks on the call in Washington State may apply for a few SWT grants that could help with this work. The technical assistance grant is one that comes to mind. Tourism regeneration that focuses on safety and inclusion and sustainability as it relates to travel and tourism. That's another grant program that folks might be interested in. So there are funding opportunities outside of your community or destination organization. And I'm sure you have a curated list of folks that are partners, Sophia, that Destinations International works with or has worked with in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. And, I listed some of those partners before, but off the top of my head, as it comes to inclusion, we work with Tourism Cares, who does a really great job with destination stewardship efforts. We're partners with IGLTA, the International Gay Lesbian Travel Association, working on ways to delve deeper into that relationship. We work with a variety of small businesses as well that focus in on accessibility needs, that focus in on multicultural marketing and training to create a welcoming environment. So we're always looking to help. As a former small business owner, I can completely understand the importance of innovation and niche areas. So we're always looking for to support small businesses and to support the businesses that have inclusion aligned services.
Good point. And I think Destinations International has a partnership with Wheel the World.
We do.
Okay, excellent. Yes, because that organization was also featured on a Skillshop webinar a few months ago, or maybe last year. But love the work that those folks are doing there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. We also have a partnership with Travelability, who we have a playbook with them, an accessibility playbook
Oh, nice.
with them on just how to get started with respect to anything accessibility related. So in addition to that, we have a variety of different resources that are downloadable on our website, from industry reports, destination organization reports, industry reports on inclusion. And we have this framework as well as the 5 steps that I've mentioned on our site. Our roadmap is out there. We have an inclusion lexicon for the United States to be able to help our members in the larger industry be able to communicate the importance of inclusion in the tourism industry with visitors, with the community, as well as legislative constituents.
Yes, and that was my last question too. Resources on your website as they relate to social inclusion. Some of the things that you just mentioned, or maybe most of them, are free, right? For members and non-members, correct?
Correct. What I've just mentioned is free for members and non-members. Our social impact assessment tool right now is member only. It's the way for us to help our members create more accountability with respect to their inclusion efforts. That for now is a member only resource. However, what everything else I'd said prior to is all is for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Sophia. That was right on time and right on point. And now we'll turn it over to Rose. So Sophia, you can go ahead and mute yourself and turn off your camera. We'll bring you in a little later, just before Q&A with our audience. But Rose, we've gotten a great overview of social inclusion from Sophia and the work that she's doing with Destinations International. Now, let's dive a little deeper and apply it to a specific destination organization and a destination community. Yours right here in Washington State in Spokane. Now, I
Right.
said it in the beginning, you're a little new. You're starting to kind of get your feet under you up in Spokane. So, excuse me, I don't expect for you to know all of the answers to all of these questions and how they're going to play out. But I'd like to kind of focus on three areas, kind of what we talked about a day or two ago.
Mhm,
Homelessness, engaging with underrepresented populations,
mhm,
perhaps also supplier diversity and how that relates in supporting the visitor economy in Spokane. And
mhm.
we'll just kind of go question by question
Sure.
and see what we can answer and kind of give some ideas for folks right here in the Northwest. Um, so the homelessness issue, how is Spokane and your destination organization kind of tackling that as it relates to social inclusion?
So the homeless situation is definitely a major discussion point right now in Spokane. We have the business community that's kind of got an angle, and then we have our city administration and county administrations that kind of have their angle, and there is some um contention between those two different communities. So where do we come in is trying to provide, well, first of all, coming in with empathy and trying to provide those that are in the power to put funding towards specific services or placements, to let them understand that there are visitor trends that they should be also considering when they are talking about development of services for people in our community, and where those are placed. Specifically, concerns about pathways from point A to point B that visitors might take and not be familiar with, and wanting to make sure that crime and safety issues that can come along with homelessness are highly considered and being provided or putting resources towards mitigating those. So we provide kind of an educational lens on the visitor trends. We provide feedback on surveying and data sets that we track with all convention groups that we bring. Not surprisingly, because when visitors are coming to town, we're doing a great job showing them all of these amazing things that we love. They're not as they don't notice the homeless as much as those that live here. But as we all know, and this is a very DI angle, what's good for a visitor, or what's good for a resident will be good for a visitor. We also need to make sure that residents are coming into our downtown space and they are supporting our visitor-facing businesses, and we have a diverse community product. So I think we can provide a unique angle. We try to remain, out of the political spectrum, but we can't necessarily just stay and sit quiet. We have to be involved. I specifically have a lot of kind of behind the scenes types communications and connections with our certain people in the city or nonprofits or charitable things that are happening, to see if there is a mission alignment way that Visit Spokane can step up. We are a 501c6 nonprofit, so we're not just handing out cash to things, but are there ways that we can provide in-kind services, or team capacity to handle on some things that might be mission aligned with what we are trying to do. So I don't want to gloss over the homeless, but that's kind of the extent of kind of where we're at right now.
Well, you mentioned resources at the city level.
Yeah.
What resources have you utilized? You kind of talked about kind of alignment with some services. How did you go about kind of deciding what resources and when to devote to this effort?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of, not always wanting to be the expert thing is tapping into resources that already exist. And we're very proud that Spokane has the services for unhoused population and for drug addiction and domestic violence and all of these things that we see that create these, unpleasant situations that might occur in town. So we are always looking to see when the city is allocating like their ARPA dollars, for example, communicating with them on what is going towards crime and safety, what's going towards maybe the clean team situation that we have. We partner actually really well with the downtown Spokane Business Partnership.
Excellent.
And
Yes.
tap into their resources for when we're bringing in clients to do FAM tours or site visits, making sure that our locations that we're taking these clients to are looking safe and clean. And we tap into the city park resources quite a bit too with our riverfront park, which is the 100 acres right downtown. And we basically are communicating anytime we're bringing significant business to town, to the city, to the park, to DSP, to let them know it needs to be all hands on deck right now. We need to make sure that not only is the city looking great, but that some of our community is taking advantage of the shelter options that they have and the services that they have. In addition, we have also tapped into the fact that there are groups that we are working with that are recruiting to our convention space that are looking at Spokane specifically because of the services that we provide to the unhoused
Oh, wow.
drug addiction, facilities and communities. So we're able to connect those clients or those meeting planners with the correct city officials to answer those questions, to answer what exactly is Spokane doing to mitigate or to assist in this scenario. And that's been fruitful. So.
Well done. Now, that sounds like a lot of work. Are you the point person on this, or do you have another staff member that liaises with the city or a coalition of
Yeah.
affordable housing, homelessness advocates? Or is there a board member that kind of wears this hat and does this work on
We
behalf
have
of Visit Spokane or the tourism industry?
Yeah, we do have we have a county commissioner and a city council on our board, and they actually are voting members of our board of directors, which is a little different from Illinois because they don't they don't do it in Illinois like that. But so we can tap into to them for direct connection. Our sales team and our convention services team, they have leads that will connect with the city and the Downtown Spokane Partnership when we're talking about preparing a site or needing to connect to a specific department on housing development or other services. So I'm not necessarily the lead. Where I would come in as a lead would be when there is more like strategy planning or destination forward thinking of potential placements of new services, locations for things. Spokane's been in the news for discussions on like a new jail and moving some services out of downtown. And what does that look like? Where should those go? Do people want it? And so I can provide information from the visitor lens, which we're constantly trying to remind any sort of destination planning conversation should always include a visitor focused individual person or organization to provide that lens, because I think oftentimes it gets kind of overlooked or glossed over. And then you're trying to piece it in later after the infrastructure's already been built. So yeah, we utilize quite a few people on our team to have multiple conversations at the same time. It is a lot of work and it can be frustrating, and it can be there's really sensitive conversations because we have businesses, tourism facing businesses that we promote that really are they've reached their max. They're ready to see change. So
Yeah.
how do you
Understood.
have those conversations with empathy? I was just in a meeting yesterday where the mayor was there, and it was also a bunch of business owners. And I was happy that I was ex officio on that board, so I didn't have to take a vote that could really make either party unhappy, no matter which way you went.
No, understood. Well, good luck with that. It's a
Yeah.
noble endeavor, a lot of work to do. And not only in Spokane, but destinations large and small. So I'm glad we were able to kind of discuss that briefly. Now let's
Yeah.
turn to another pillar or item within social inclusion. Engagement with underrepresented populations within your community. I'm thinking of the Latino community or the Indigenous community. Sophia will be in Spokane soon. She'll learn more about the Spokane tribe. in Washington State, there's, I believe, 27 federally recognized tribes. So Native American history and culture is very much a part of this state. And Indigenous tourism is something that State of Washington tourism is leaning into. And working with our tribal partners for destination development and promotion. Can you tell us a little bit more about that
Yeah.
in Spokane with the Spokane tribe and maybe other tribes in the area?
Yeah, I'll kind of go through some slides here. This one that just popped up is basically a slide I like to put in all of my decks and any presentation I do around the community to inform people that Visit Spokane helped showcase the full range of offerings, and we are looking to enhance the overall visitor experience. So that's a very inclusive statement. And it also makes sure that people understand that although we do a lot of big business through convention and meetings, we have all of these other items that we focus on: arts and culture, you know, small business and makers promotion. We are involved in ecotourism, LGBTQ, heritage tourism, a lot of things, because it often, and I know Sophia, she spends a lot of time educating people on DI and what they do. That's the same on the DMO side. We are constantly in the community, and at least in the last year and a half since I've been in here, in the community more, making sure people understand everything that we offer. When it comes to our equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility efforts and how we're working with underrepresented communities, we did a few things. First, we kind of, we're working on a strategic collaboration plan. We did some deep dive. This has started prior to me arriving at the end of 2022 for strategic planning that identified some needs and also what's exist. So we, as a staff, even more recently, knowing that we had just won the Social Inclusion Summit for DI, it kind of put us into a little bit more fast track to really be intentful with conversations and identify specifically what already exists that we can lean into. So a few things that we do lean into is our city motto was just changed to "We All Belong." And there have been resources both on the finance and team side on the city that are putting efforts to make sure that this is not just a motto, that this is how we are welcoming people to Spokane. So we're able to tap into resources and programming that they have. Spokane is a sanctuary city, so we have a lot of refugees that call Spokane home, and we work directly with a few businesses attached in that community. There is a restaurant called Indigenous Eats that has multiple different chefs that come and cook throughout the year. We also purchase goods from some companies that hire refugees specifically to make their products, and we use those in any of our meeting and client gifts that we are sending out of Spokane. We have a very rich history of Native American history that we tried to tap into. We are already currently supporting minority nonprofits, which I'll talk about in a second. We have tapped into some of our resources in promoting and putting marketing dollars towards diverse articles, diverse promotions. I think there's always room for improvement with that. And we can look and see, when we talk about diverse, to Sophia's point, it's not just race, it's body type, it's accessibility, it's age, it's environmental impact, it's all of those things. So we're doing a decent job there that we can improve on. Another thing that we are so happy to have is a very active Spokane Transit Authority and para transit routes that we can lean into. And then, of course, our staff. So after we identified what existed, we actually identified what are the needs that we need to build on. And I'm not going to read all of these here, but essentially it came down to compiling resources lists that are experts in our community that we don't have to be the expert in. We can tap into their knowledge, their programming. Spokane is a great nonprofit system. Some of these resource lists will also help us in our selling side when we're talking about conventions and groups, because like I noted earlier, we're getting asked these questions. What is Spokane doing? What is Visit Spokane doing? So we want to be able to have a resource list for them. And we have groups that are coming into town that want to connect with local charities. So we're mapping all of that out now. And we're starting to build that. We are looking at where we spend our marketing dollars in terms of our PR efforts and our travel writer system, anything of our featured promotions that we may have that include where are we putting our dollars. So that's something we've identified that we need to do better at. Digital ADA compliance, to Sophia's point about the website, there's improvement for that. On the back end, our CRM, we're creating better reporting, internal reporting, and mapping that we can pull to better identify business listings and offerings that exist in our community that we can then work into digital promotions. So that's pretty cool. And we haven't done as good of a job providing training opportunities for our team and or celebrating cultural celebrations that are happening in the community. In fact, when I got here last May, we had there was an event, I can't remember what it was, in downtown, and it was all of these unique vendors. And I remember I went to the Hispanic Business Chamber tent to just learn about it. And I asked them if they knew of Visit Spokane, and they did not.
Wow.
So I was disappointed to know
That's an opportunity.
Yes, and since then, they were actually our, for 2024, they were our main nonprofit that we donated in-kind services to and did some sponsorship and promotion for. So, and once we identified what we had and what we needed, we started getting to work. For us, the Destinations International Inclusion Summit was an intentful recruitment. We are so happy that they're coming, and Sophia's team has been great to provide some additional opportunities to tap into resources and connect with their partners that she kind of went through. So that's been great. And this is really mission alignment for our city of Spokane too, that where we all belong. So that was intentional, and that kind of put us on the fast track. Something that I was involved in, there has been dollars, LTAC or lodging tax dollars that were sitting in a pot since 2020 that hadn't been used, that part of our ordinance scrapes off some dollars and it goes to the city and they offer grant opportunities. Well, we came in and provided insight to kind of rename and restructure to have it be a focus on arts and culture while still meeting the RCW requirements of tourism promotion. And I am actually sitting on that committee and a part of the committee that helps choose some of the events and groups that apply for these funds. And then we have also dedicated a team member, which it's me right now, but eventually it'll be someone else, where we are included in the application process where these groups have to reach out to us to learn how to connect with hotels, to learn about more resources, to learn about tourism, to see how we can possibly partner with them. And that's been rewarding.
Wow.
We just granted around, I think, $200,000 to 10 or 15 applicants, and they're all going to be doing great events in the next few months.
Awesome. Wow.
We are working on a EDIA public-facing webpage and accountability tracker, which will be live by the Social Inclusion Summit. That is our deadline, so we're working on that. That's going to include some new visuals, including we're working with the tribe on a scripted welcoming video that will take place of our land acknowledgement that we do in person at some meetings. So we're going to be playing this visual piece that has some Salish and English and some great visuals of Spokane. When we met with the tribe a few months ago, we were able to meet with an elder who gave a presentation and was talking about how Spokane has been welcoming people for thousands of years.
True.
And we're really tapping into that message while also recognizing that these lands have been taken over. So we're giving acknowledgement in kind of a more visual way instead of just getting behind a podium. So that's pretty cool. And then we're really working on connecting with resources that already exist, like I mentioned, but our higher education in Spokane, another amazing thing about our destination, we're tapping into contacts at the colleges that are teaching programming to young people coming into town that can provide educational partners for us to connect with meeting planners and or even loop in with visitation trends and how we're working with that. Should I stop there for any questions for you? Because the next is about tribes specifically. But
yes, tell us a little bit more about tribes. And you kind of mentioned the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and any other bits of advice around
Yeah.
supplier diversity, and
Yes.
then we can wrap it up in about 2 minutes. How
Yeah,
about that,
yeah,
Rose?
perfect. I think all of this revolves around partnership and engagement, which we've created since I've arrived. We've created that department, and we have a senior director of partnership and engagement. And we, any new hires that we bring onto the team will be into that department. So we're building up our own resources, dedicating our own time. As far as connecting with underserved communities like the HBPA, the Hispanic Business Chamber. What we did specifically this year is we identified that they would be one of our in-kind and sponsorship communities for 2024. We actually came in and educated, let them ask us all sorts of questions about who we are, what we do, provided them design services to completely rebrand one of their events, which is the largest event in the region, which is a Tacos and Tequila Festival, and then put money, time, and effort towards that, and also connected them with the city to receive more funding. So as a cash sponsorship, overall, they got around 40 grand from us and the city, but then we invested probably even more in time and effort to create marketing materials, help them update some branding, meet to provide educational information, and then connect them with other nonprofits that can assist in helping them with their business growth. So that was really intentful. It was a lot of work. It was more work than I think we thought. We kind of have a roadmap now that we've done that pilot program, and we're excited to announce our 2025 partner coming soon.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Yeah. As far as the tribe, we are doing a lot with the tribes right now. It all starts with communication and conversation. We have a tribal representative on our board of directors. That has been great. We have now identified a dedicated tribal education contact to answer our questions, but also meet with potential clients and groups that they can ask questions about the tribe, and also set up future site visits and visitations to reservation land and such. And then we have identified and started to work on tribal promotions that are beyond just the casino and hotels. After communicating with tribal members, it's been made very clear that they want storytelling on their lands, their programming, what they do for their own individual tribes, the importance of keeping their language alive, and their artists and makers that are in the community. So they're putting faith in us to help deliver some of that storytelling, and we're really excited about that. What was the question about supplier, right?
Yeah, any policies or planning in place around supplier diversity, women-owned businesses, vets, minority-owned businesses?
So in part of our identification of what we need is identifying that resource list. We have plans to, anytime that we're working with photographer, videographer, agency, anything at all, we're making sure that we're asking and vetting multiple people, and we're looking at how diverse is our dollars being spent. To Sophia's point earlier, she hears a lot of destinations say like, well, our community might not be that diverse, but you can be really be intentful of how you spend your marketing dollars and your sales dollars. And are you working with vendors that have diverse teams or mission alignment with your EDI goals that you've set for yourself? And diversity, again, doesn't just have to be race. It can be all women led. It can be working with some of the partners that Sophia mentioned on her slides. So we have quite a few resources locally in town that we are trying to work with, and we're providing those names and contacts for our other partners as well. So in any of our networking, we just had our fall kind of VIP networking event where we invited quite a few of the nonprofits that we kind of connect and work with, and introduce them to other nonprofits that they can tap into and have resources for. So we're building those lists right now. It's going to continue to evolve over the next few years. And we recognize the importance of having those identified so we can put our dollars there.
Excellent. And then promote and report on all of those dollars spent in the community, the good work that you do.
Yes.
Great. Good job, Rose. I mean, I'm looking forward to visiting Spokane and learning more about your work at the Social Inclusion Summit in late October.
Yeah.
Folks, Great. We are having a great time during this skill shop. We have a few minutes left for your questions, audience questions. Beth, do we have any questions so far from our audience members?
No, nothing that hasn't already been answered.
Okay, excellent. Well, Sophia and Rose, let me ask you another question to help prime some of our audience members here. So, challenges. We talked about the good work that Rose is doing in Visit Seattle. There's always more work to do not in Spokane and elsewhere. What other challenges might tourism stakeholders face when undertaking this kind of work? Um, I think one thing I hear from the folks that I work with, just kind of capacity issues, just not enough staffing, not enough funding, or maybe it kind of relates to me and my community and at my kind of skill level or my job level, but it doesn't probably relate, or my CEO has way too many other things to deal with, or there's just not enough political will, or I don't know how to organize politically or the community around issues like these. What do you say to those folks and help to kind of overcome those challenges?
Who is this for? Is this for me or Rose?
It's either one.
I can go first. So, Matthew, you have alluded to everything that I was going to say. As all of those challenges, I think sometimes the overwhelm on how to get started is one piece. Not really thinking that this work is a priority is the other piece. So really siloing these efforts and not understanding that as it's interwoven, there are tremendous benefits for the community, for partnerships, as well as for visitation. I think that's usually the biggest misnomer here is that it's a training, and it's so much more than a training. It's human connections. It's building trust. It is it's about hospitality. And that sometimes it can be the biggest challenge. I'd say also, we're in a political election year, and that has ramifications from what you hear in the media. And sometimes it takes away from the core message of welcoming and belonging. And that's another challenge as well. So I can speak from the association lens that, what we're trying to do with our members is to help remind that if we weave these if we weave inclusion throughout these topics that our destinations find really important or trying to figure solutions to, that is the key to future success, future growth, and that community trust.
Rose, you mentioned perhaps hiring another staff member that's kind of dedicated to some of this work, whether it be industry relations, community relations, advocacy in general.
Yeah.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, well, we do have someone we need to hire so that that person can focus more on that strategy. So as soon as the budget allows, that'll happen. I think to Sophia's point, when you have pushback so for us, not only do we have public dollars that require specific spend, right? And we have limited private dollars, and we can try to boost that revenue, but it's sometimes the hoteliers get a little focus on exactly what their needs are and contracts and room nights, which I always like to say, nobody wants room nights more than us because we are funded by them. So I understand, and it's very important, but I am a huge proponent of finding advocates that can speak on our behalf. So it's not me just saying we need to do this. It's the business owners of people we're celebrating and representing. It's other nonprofits that are mission aligned that can come and say, this has been great to work for us. It's the clean team downtown that could say, yes, these need to be talked about. So it's bringing people in and having other people reiterate things that you're telling your team, your board, your team, or the naysayers. It's ignoring the people that don't have any power. Whatever, they can complain, let them do it. And then it's also making sure that for us, that the full team understands what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing it, so that if they're approached outside of if they're asked a question, and we have, communication channels that they should push certain things to, but we want them to be prepared to answer and to be passionate about kind of like where they work and the work that we do and how good it is. It goes back to that first slide. We help we're promoting the reputation of the destination and the overall experience. And that includes many things. We can't do it by ourselves. We need support. We need funding. We need to tap into resources that already exist. But the advocate portion, I think, is very crucial to have people speak on your behalf.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I totally agree. It sounds like all of diversity and equity inclusion work has to kind of be embedded into a strategic plan for advocacy, but also let your kind of workplace culture, your values, your mission shine through too.
Yeah.
Not only amongst your staff, but your partners and our community stakeholders as well. So I think you're on the right track. I loved listening to you today, and Sophia. Folks, we started a little late, so we can kind of stay on a little past 11. Are there any other questions from the audience, Beth? No? Okay. Well, then we have, well, actually, let's give a few minutes to Sophia. Sophia, why don't we do a quick preview of the Social Inclusion Summit in Spokane?
I'm happy to. I will share a little bit about what we're going to be doing at the summit. So we have 2 full days that are going to be fantastic. Day 1, we're going to be starting with a wonderful welcome that will be a nice little surprise for our attendees. And after that, we're going to delve into framing up this summit through this 7 Secrets of Inclusive Hospitality led by Hospitable Me to help us frame the importance of inclusion and mindset. We're going to have some really great community engagement and funding legislation discussions through the representatives from people that live in Spokane, the different representatives of the community, city council. So we're really excited about what that means, what that looks like through an inclusion lens. And then we'll have a half-day immersion experience, really experiencing the Indigenous tribes of Spokane, speaking to the importance of the river, the importance of what tourism has been like, past, present, and future. And then we want to have a discussion with tribal representatives on what building trust looks like, how to engage with tribal communities in a respectful way. And we really want to make sure that we foster this dialogue so we can have better partnerships together. Day 2, we'll be starting with what we call a marketplace of ideas. So we have inclusion-aligned partner case studies, which are a variety that we've chosen based on our social inclusion framework. We're going to have a little download after that from observations and takeaways from the immersion experience. It's something that our attendees last year really wanted to have. So we're making sure we do that. And then the final 3 sessions are dedicated to delving deeper into workforce development topics, as well as accountability. Those are 2 areas that we've noticed from our inclusion studies that we need to do a better job of supporting. So we're going to have some rapid fire case studies, 2 to 3 examples from destination organizations on how they've been able to work on emotional intelligence, workforce development and retention, as well as accountability. And then each of those sessions, we're going to have a little workshopping approach where we're going to hear from those case studies, and then we're going to have group discussion and workshopping on some solutions or ideas. So we can walk away being able to learn from each other and be able to ideate together.
Excellent. Wow, I'm excited. Yeah, a lot of these issues, a lot of this work I'm doing throughout rural parts of the state. And so I hope to learn and take some things back to the folks that I work with. So looking forward to the summit in Spokane, late October 28th through the 30th. And folks, that's all the time we have today for this edition of the Tourism Skill Shop. We're actually taking the month off in October to focus on the State Tourism Conference. So if you haven't registered for that yet, please do. October 7th through the 9th in Vancouver, early October. And then you'll see me in late October in Spokane. So Rose, Beth, and Sophia, thank you very much. Why don't you stay on the line for a little bit longer? And folks, we will see you in November. Take care.